right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Crypto Show, a show dedicated to understanding the promise of currency, technology, and anarchy in the pursuit of a free society. And if you believe like we do that such a society can and should exist, then join us, why don't you, as we parade through a world unbound by convention, a world sketched by the beauty of the human artist. Because each and every one of you listening right now is that artist. So for the next 2 hours, let go of your most sacred system of thought and entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, everything we've been told about currency, technology, and yes, even that dirty little word anarchy is only one part of an ever-expanding, ever-possible, complex universe of ideas, one that we simply refuse to explore. So what do you say, listeners? Let's do some universe exploring tonight and have some fun while we do it. Everything is awesome. That would be normally our intro soundboard music. I thought I'd fill in, though. So
what would you say you do here?
Apparently, I wasn't doing anything.
I don't know. I haven't checked my job description either to see if it matches up with what I actually do. Well, guys, speaking of what we're doing, we're actually here at the Alamo Draft House on South Lamar, live, coming to you on the Crypto Show here on this lovely Wednesday, August 26, 2015. Now, you may be asking yourselves, why is the Crypto Show the most popular show on radio, one which I religiously follow twice a week for 2 hours each night, coming to you live from the Alamo Draft House, South Lamar, which is my favorite entertainment hotspot for movies and just meeting friends and drinking local beer. Well, tonight is a screening of the film Deep Web by Alex Winter. Many of our listeners are probably already familiar with the film. The Deep Web, of course, is a part of the internet not accessed by normal means through search engines. You have to use Tor to get to it. And the movie concerns that whole environment, but more specifically, the Silk Road and the Dread Pirate Roberts, the alleged Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road. And we're very happy to have the creator of that film with us live, sitting here at the table with us, Alex Winter. And a little bit later in the show, we're going to have Paul Foy of Airbits. And sitting in with us also is Julia Tourianski, activist of BraveTheWorld.com. If you listen to 89.1 FM here locally, you heard her as a guest and as actually a fill-in host on InfoWars with Alex Jones. And she's sitting in with us right now. So we're very pleased to have everyone on board, and we'll get right to it. Alex Winter, how you doing?
I'm good, man.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
You just missed a photo op with two pirates. There were two Dread Pirate Roberts out here.
Oh, really?
Dressed in black with swords.
Did someone come to the screening dressed as the Dread Pirate Roberts?
Two people did, yes.
Very daring. They're going to be picked up on the way out and whisked away to a bunker.
For the rest of their lives, probably, yes, unfortunately. Yeah. And before I should plug real quick, the two people who were here dressed as Dread Pirate Roberts are actually putting on a Dread Pirate Roberts Day on UT campus on September 8th in just a little over a week, where they're going to be handing out some information about the Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht and what people can do to get involved to raise funds and gain support for his appeal and getting him out of jail. So go to Facebook and check out, is it just DPR Day?
DPR Day.
Yes. Yeah, DPR Day, and you can learn more about that. Alex...
and I think there's going to be a screening of The Princess Bride afterwards at Brave New Books.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, definitely check that out. Well, Alex, how long have you been in Austin right now?
I got in today. I'll leave tomorrow.
Well, that's a quick in and out. I got you. Yeah. You're probably a busy guy. Is this your first time in town?
No, not at all. No, I'm here a lot. The film had its world premiere at the South by Southwest Festival, and Downloaded also had its world premiere at South by, and I've done panels at South by, and I've done screenings at draft houses here and all over the place. So I've been in Austin a lot over the years.
Excellent. It's a great town.
It's a great town. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, so I mean, you're here for a film screening. You just mentioned that you've been at other screenings. Are you basically doing a sort of tour for the Deep Web around the country at various screenings?
Not so much. I did that for a while. We did a very, very extensive festival tour. We played festivals all over the world. We're still playing in festivals all over the world. I, however, had to get back to work, so I couldn't stay on the road that long. But I went on the road for probably 2 months worldwide, and I'm hitting important dates where I can. And certainly, it's very easy because of technology to do. I'm always doing a Skype Q&A because the movie's all over the place, and it's about to come out.
We've seen you on those.
Yeah, I think you may have. I think you've done one or two of those.
You did with us a couple weeks ago for our Free Ross fundraiser.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, you can go to thecryptoshow.com/Free Ross, and you can still donate, and you can still purchase some items that have been donated to help support his legal fund. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, so it's something that I keep doing, and the movie comes out on iTunes and all of that on September 1st. So it's only going to just keep getting a broader and broader audience. Once it hits iTunes and Netflix, and it goes even farther into people's being able to see the movie. So I'm going to definitely keep talking about it.
We hope so. We will definitely be too. Well, and how has the international exposure been? Are you mainly focusing here in the U.S., or have you had screenings outside the U.S.?
No, we have a very very strong international sales team, and we've just been selling territories. So we're going to start hitting pretty hard all over the world. We have sales that have gone down everywhere. We've played festivals all over the world already. I've been in England with the movie. I went over for that. The film has been played in festivals in Australia. It's playing in festivals all over the world, but it's going to be visible on TV, in theaters, and VOD, Netflix, worldwide.
What have you noticed of people before and after they see the movie, as far as their opinion of what they went in and how they came out?
Well, it varies greatly.
I mean, referring to Ross.
Of course. I mean, well, the film is largely about Ross, obviously. So it's inescapable. I think that very few people actually understand this world, even if they understand technology, and then very few people understand what happened, even if they followed the story. So it's a lot. You get hit with a lot with the movie, and I think that emotionally it's pretty intense, and I think that from an informational standpoint it's pretty intense. I did that intentionally, but I think it's laid out clearly so that if you're paying attention, you walk away with a base understanding. That's kind of what I wanted. You want to make a movie that tells a story that grips people emotionally. You don't want to lecture to them, and you don't want to just fill their head with your opinion. And I think the film covers a lot of different opinions, so you can kind of make your own mind up.
We're actually lucky enough to have two people sitting here at the table that were actually in the trial at the sentencing. And
that's right. Both Julia Tourianski and, of course, Alex Winter were there at the trial. And, well, speaking of which, tell us what that was like. I've sat in on some federal trials, and in terms of personal experience, I dealt with some, criminal cases. When I made the Napster movie, I was very close with Sean Fanning and Sean Parker, and I was sort of riding shotgun with them as Napster was falling apart. And it was very intense to watch two very young, innovative, brilliant guys, whether you like them or what they did or not, just be so intensely decimated by the system. That didn't prepare me at all for watching what Ross went through. Similarly, young, brilliant, innovative young man. Again, regardless of whether you like what he did, agree with what he did, whatever your opinions are about any of it, that's where we started. And to watch somebody get caught up in the intersection of cyber prosecution and drug war prosecution was very emotionally overwhelming. I mean, these are two of the most over-prosecuted arenas that we have in American law today. You could argue worldwide, but certainly in America, if you tangle with cyber, you tangle with the drug war, you are going to get the full weight of persecution thrown at you. And Ross is smack in the middle of both of those. So the level of gravity in that courtroom, and I'm sure Julia could speak to this as well, but the level of gravity, the intensity, the emotional intensity in the courtroom. I mean, I said this to Lynn Albrecht after one day of being there. It was like, it was really actually too much to bear. It was really oppressive and depressing I was actually completely emotionally exhausted after even one day of just being in the trial. The sentence
was different. The sentence was really surreal. The sentence I thought was going to be about 45 minutes long, and it went on for about 3 hours. And
how does that work? 3 hours of sentencing?
I heard there was this ceremonial pointing to of the flag a lot.
Well, there was, they brought out a lot of victims of drug overdoses, and they did what they always do. It was a bit of dog and pony show, and I expected that to some degree. But what I don't think anyone expected, and you have to remember that in the courtroom, in the sentencing room, you're not just dealing with people who are pro-Ross and pro this movement. In fact, I would argue that was mostly the opposite. However, when he was sentenced, I would say that pretty much everybody in the sentencing rooms was stunned.
Wow.
By the severity of the sentence.
Yeah, Ross Ulbricht got a harsher sentence than what Charles Manson is serving. Charles Manson is serving a single life sentence. Ross is serving a double life sentence for a victimless crime. No one was proven to be hurt.
He got more time than Noriega.
Yeah, and there are other charges and there's other sentences lumped on top of the 2 life sentences. So you're dealing with, life in prison without the possibility of parole is what he's got right now. Obviously, the family's appealing, but two things happened. I think were impactful about that. One was the severity of the sentence, and the second was the bluntness by which she expressed her motivation for that sentence. The judge, she was very open about the fact that she was making an example out of Ross, that it wasn't, that it was not just what he did, but what the technologies do in general and what other people do with those technologies and how they view those as threatening. They were sort of openly saying you were taking the heat for everybody in this world doing whatever they do in this world that we don't like.
Do you think she overplayed her hand? Like, do you think it was too punitive and too obvious what the motive behind the sentencing was, that it may have turned people off from?
Well, I think it turned people off because it was extreme. I think that, like Julie's saying, I think that there are people who have been caught red-handed with weapons in their hand murdering people have gotten out after 8 years.
Do you recall what the prosecution asked for?
It was less than that. So this went beyond what the prosecution's request
I forgot that. The prosecution wasn't even asking anything near that.
Much less.
Yeah, and I wonder how the jury feels knowing what the result of the sentence is, because juries don't know what these sentences.
And we'll talk more about that on the other side of the break here on the Crypto Show, guys.
What happens when you call the cops? This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. I'm sick of people being victimized.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books and Hill Country Home Improvements. And that intro song, by the way, was by Rob Hustle of robhustle.com. This is what happens when you call the cops. Check out his sequel, Good Cops, and he is doing a Kickstarter fundraiser for the music video for that sequel. So go to his website and check that out. And, of course, we are here on this lovely Wednesday, August 26, 2015, at Alamo Draft House, South Lamar, here for the screening of The Deep Web. And we are very fortunate to have Julia Tourianski here with us, and equally fortunate to have Alex Winter, creator of Deep Web, the movie, here with us today. And Alex, as we were just talking about his sentencing, which took, you said, about like 3 hours, we, of course, understand the motive behind the punitive sentencing, which is to make Ross a sort of political example. But what do you think was the personal motive behind the judge doing that? Was it just her attempt to make it into the media? Do you think there was pressure behind the scenes? What do you think it was?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's I don't think it's a publicity stunt for Judge Forrest. I think that these people believe in the drug war. She was very vocal about her faith in the drug war and the need to preserve it. And how she felt these technologies were disruptive, what she called the social fabric. It reminds you that we live in a culture where there's belief in the systemic, enforcement of these types of laws. I think there's a very deep belief in that. I don't think anyone there was cynical.
Perpetuating the submission.
Yeah, I think that that's I think what felt so chilling about the sentencing. Where you just sit there and think, okay, you live on Mars and I live on Venus. We just live on two completely different planets.
That's literally how it feels.
Yeah, because to me, I'm like, okay, the the social fabric is being horribly disrupted by the drug war.
Absolutely. And that's the big irony. It's the opposite of what they think.
See, I think Judge Forrest gave Chuck Schumer a happy ending with this trial.
So to speak.
Yeah, well, with the sentencing, that was the happy ending for him. It's I think she was under his agenda and under his guidance the entire time.
Well, I think you're right, and I think a lot of people, whatever her personal motivation, had a hand in the outcome, and obviously we're gunning for not only his conviction but this sentencing. And so, since the release of your movie, well, speaking of government officials, do you know of any reactions in the media by government officials to the release of the deep web? I'm curious.
No, I mean, the other side in these types of stories is always quiet. That's to be expected.
That's kind of the smart play, almost.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe.
Yeah. They're going to be quiet, and I get it. And I'm not really trying to provoke them to say anything. Really, what I'm trying to do is inform people, and I'm trying to tell a story, and I'm trying to clarify a entire area that I think is really mythologized and misconstrued by most people. And I'm also trying to tell the story of this extremely complex trial and what it was like for people like Lynn Ulbricht, for Ross's mom and dad, Lynn and Kirk, to be dragged into something so intense and so gigantic and seemingly impossible to get their minds around, and to watch them sort of become activists, to watch them wake up to the level of detail. Neither of them were by any means dumb or ill-informed to begin with, but they really got engaged.
And we've seen that transformation too, because
they created a sleeping giant.
Yeah, I mean, Lynn she ain't going to be stopping anytime soon.
No,
but she really does understand the nuance of digital issues that very few people understand. And so the film is as much about her and her awakening as it is about anything else.
When she first came to Austin during the Texas Bitcoin conferences, she was just going like meekly hanging around in the background, and very few people knew who she was.
Yeah.
And nobody was really giving her the time of day. And now,
she knew very little about this space of technology, she told us.
Yeah.
And she's basically had to go through a crash course in it in order to help her son's defense.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. She's an incredible woman. Like, it's no exaggeration to say she's this sleeping giant,
Yeah. And just the way the Bitcoin community just has totally stepped up. And I mean, look at the money that they've raised.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to see, and I just think that in a way, the Silk Road had many different components to it. It was not just obviously about selling drugs. Neither was it just about libertarian politics. Neither was it just an anti-drug war device.
And people forget that there were sides to it. Yeah,
there are many different sides to it. But what Lynn has really helped to do is shine a light on what is probably the most vital activist side of the Silk Road. I think it's really helped to clarify the components of the Silk Road that were about politics, that were about activism, because there were very strong sides to the Silk Road that were the motive for many of the architects that created it.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask you too. Obviously, Keanu Reeves is narrating Deep Web, and you two go way back, obviously, as friends and professional colleagues. So I'm curious, and I'm asking this in a more general sense. Did he get involved as a favor to you, or did he get involved because he cares about the issue? And how does Hollywood very familiar with this issue, and what is their opinion on it?
If Keanu thought that I was speaking for him as for all of Hollywood, he would throw up.
Fair enough.
But specific to him, he's a really good friend of mine. We've been friends a very long time, and we both share an interest in technology and in sort of cyber literature, like William Gibson and Philip K. Dick and things like that. And we have
Philip K. Dick,
me too. And we have similar politics. So, and we both always bird dog each other's work. So I'll look at his stuff as he's working on it. He'll look at my stuff as I'm working on it. He was around for the whole Napster journey as I took it. And
it's a really great documentary.
Oh, thank you. And he was a consulting producer on Deep Web from the beginning. So he was very immersed in the project. I didn't think to ask him to voice it until like a week before I went to South by.
You announced it just before.
I was so busy. I was trying to, Ross was sentenced 2 days after the film came out. So I was just in a sea of making the movie. It never even occurred to me that I knew I had to find VO. I just hadn't thought about who was going to do it. And then, it seemed like the right idea. He had the right voice for it, and he had the right ability to kind of have a good emotive presence without overtaking it. So I was glad that he was interested in doing it.
Yeah, and it does seem from an outsider's perspective, and again, of course, I can't speak for anyone in Hollywood really, but my perspective is it seems difficult in Hollywood for films of this nature to get out for whatever reason, because it is so maybe controversial and cuts against the grain. And that's the beauty of what you have done is, you've done a lot of other work that, in your career that people may not be as familiar with, some incredible work. And it's just fantastic that you were there to make this happen. And people forget, maybe a film like this was inevitable in a certain way, but that doesn't mean that it didn't take a specific individual to decide to go there and make it happen.
Well, I will say one thing about Hollywood to that end, and that is that I didn't, I knew that this film was going to be an extension of the conversation I started with Downloaded, which was mostly about the rise of anonymous or the rise of online-based community and why that was important from a sociological and political standpoint. I was sort of like Lynn. I got sucked into the Ross Ulbricht of it all and the Silk Road of it all. And the more that I discovered what Hollywood was intending to do with this story, the more I started to hear about. There's like 9 Silk Road movies that are in development. And
wow!
Okay. There's like a ton of them, and they were in development before I even got started. Some as soon as Time Magazine had a cover that said drugs and the internet, there were like movie options flying around at 100 miles an hour, And the more I realized, and a lot of these people were, if not friends of mine, people that I thought were bright and not just, cynics or whatever, but they were so misinformed, and their perspective on the story was so skewed and just inaccurate. It just didn't, in terms of the technology, much less the politics. It was much more of an impetus to get the story out properly and to make sure that we told, to the best of our ability, because you can't do it perfectly, we told as much of what we thought was actually going on as we possibly could, because I felt like once we were done, it may be the last time that we see coming out of sort of the major film industry anything that even vaguely resembles the truth. Because what we're about to see, if any of this stuff gets made, it is going to blow your mind in terms of its level of inaccuracy. And it's sad. I think we've started to see that. We've started to see some major publications come out with big articles on the Silk Road case that are just really, really skewed.
Yeah,
I've definitely seen plenty of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, we are very grateful that you took the effort to actually listen to the truth instead of being overwhelmed with all these reports that are, during the trial, they would come and talk to Lynn, say one thing to her face and write the opposite. This is systematically done. It's not even by mistake.
No, absolutely not. Well, Alex, we're coming to break. Thank you so much for being on the Crypto Show. Yeah. And we really appreciate it.
Thanks, Julia.
And we're very excited to be here with you. And we hope to have you on again in the near future.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.